Okay, so welcome guys to the installation video for Visual Studio. This is a continuing video or a continuation on the Python-101 series. So you join me in a completely clean Windows 10 virtual machine, and yeah, what we're gonna do is we're just going to install Visual Studio as one of the IDEs that I mentioned in the previous video that we were going to look at to create our Python applications. So I'm going to open Edge because I just didn't install Chrome, and we're going to type Visual Studio. There we go. So we're going to go to Visual Studio. This one will do. Okay, so if you've got a Mac, then you can try to install this version. I'm not 100% sure how good it is at all. Also, VS Code we can get from here as well. So if you prefer a stripped down version of Visual Studio, then go for VS Code. We'll be looking at how to install VS Code on Linux machines as well, because VS doesn't work on Linux. But for now though, you'll want to install the Community 2019 edition of VS. The professional and the enterprise version cost a ridiculous amount of money, but for the sort of stuff that we're going to be using it for, the community edition is absolutely fine. So you can go ahead and install that. I've already installed it, or rather I've already downloaded it. So I'm just going to go to Windows Explorer, go to Downloads, and VS Enterprise. Yeah, I installed the Enterprise Edition because I have a license for it, but you know, everything that I'm about to do will work exactly the same on the Community Edition, so you don't need to worry. Actually, installing something like Visual Studio or PyCharm, or a much bigger and dedicated IDE than something like VS Code, means that we don't actually need to go to the Python website and download Python itself. It downloads everything automatically for you, which I find quite nice. Something in Visual Studio Code, ideally you need to go to the Python, or at least at the time of recording, you need to go to the Python website and download it itself, and it will sort everything out then. But for now, what we can do is, if you haven't looked at Visual Studio before, I really recommend you have a look at it. It is a good IDE that you can use. You've got loads and loads of stuff here that you can have a look at. The data science stuff is quite good for Python and F# if you're into that sort of thing. Again, we can look at Android developments and stuff, which might be quite interesting if we're developing an Android app to control a robot, which is quite cool. But the one we want is the Python development section. So the important thing we're going to get rid of Miniconda, web support, and live share because we don't really need them. The only thing to really make sure is if you've got a 64-bit version of Windows 10, then make sure 64-bit is selected, and if you've got a 32-bit version of Windows, then go for the 32-bit. Either way though, make sure you don't choose Python 2. Most of the time. There are sections in ROS or ROS version 1 where you might need Python 2, but we'll get onto that a little bit later down the line. Yeah, so I'm going to just keep Python 3 64-bit as selected, and you can see it only requires 1.74 gig, which is quite nice. So this is going to go and install the most recent version of Python, which I think is something like 3.8. Let's have a look. Python. Go to this one, python.org, and yeah, it's going to install Python 3.85 in this case. And for reference for the VS Code video, this is where we're going to go to install Python, but VS is going to do it for us, which is quite nice of it. So yeah, what I'm going to do is pause the video and wait until it's installed, and then we can go ahead and get everything ready and set up. Okay, so VS is now fully installed, which is good. You can go ahead and create an account if you want. I've already made one, but I can't be bothered to sign in. Again, choose your colour theme. If you choose anything other than the dark colour theme, then you shouldn't be a programmer. And this is what you get. So if we go to create a new project, these are, well, currently we've only installed the Python package, so we've got loads of stuff here. The main one that we want though is just the Python application, plain old simple command line application. So click next, make up a name, so just type in hello world or something, and again, you know, you can create a location for all of your Python stuff. So ordinarily Visual Studio just creates a source file for everything, but go ahead and create your own Python folder, tutorial thing, whatever. But yeah, anyway, so create and cool. So this is it. This is the Python environment where we're going to be doing all of our code in Visual Studio. So there's a few extra little bits and pieces that I think I will go over before ending the video. So as you can see, Python is we can now write some Python code. So we can just type in hello world. I can't spell. So print hello world. We start, run it, and there we go. So Python is now fully installed, which is great, and we didn't really need to do any config stuff, which is all nice, well and good. There is one thing though. If you notice, if we type in Python in the command prompt, it works. That shouldn't have happened. No, I actually know why that happened. I did it before, so it's, yeah, okay. So I'm going to pause the video and undo what I did previously so that you know what I'm on about. Okay, now that I've undid the thing that I did to make it work, or not work, we can now go open to the, oh bloody hell, go away. We can open the command prompt and we can try to type in Python. But as you can see, it doesn't work, and it opens the Microsoft Store and says go to here to install Python. But as you can see, we've already installed Python because it's on Visual Studio. The issue is that we haven't added it to the path. So what we need to do is close this, and by path I mean if you open the command prompt, just type something and it will work there and then. So type in Python, it will open a Python interpreter kind of thing. So what we need to do is go to system variables, or what was it? Edit system environment something. Environment variables is what you need to go to. So we need to go here, and we need to go to path, press edit, and we need to add something to this path. We need to add an environment variable so that it's global. Anyone can access this, which is cool. So what we need to do is we need to find out where Python is actually where Visual Studio is executing the Python command to interpret our code and to give us an output, or provide an executable. So the way we can do this is we go to, we just type in Visual Studio 2019. There might be a better way of doing this, but this is how I've always done it. Go to the where it's stored, where Visual Studio is actually stored. So in this case, this is the path where it's stored. Now we can go back and go. So go to the Microsoft Visual Studio directory. Go to shared Python 37 _64. That means Python 3.7 _ 64-bit. And this is where Visual Studio is actually executing the Python script to allow us to create our stuff. And yeah, this is where we can now type in some Python code. That should be and there you go, we've got our output as hello world. So what we need to do, close that, we need to get the location of this. So can we get the location of that, copy, go down to here and make sure path is selected, edit, new, simply paste it into here, OK, OK, OK. Now we open another command prompt, type Python, and there we go, we've now got Python on our path, so that we don't need to go into all of this stuff and execute it directly. Instead, we can just execute it inside the command prompt, which is quite cool, quite nice. So the other great thing about Python is its ability to isolate its workspaces into specific environments. So it does this by using a virtual environment, which you can use to contain all of your code and packages of a particular version, so it doesn't affect other programs or whatever using other types of packages or other versions of the same package. So what we're going to do is we're just going to create a simple virtual environment, and you'll kind of get an idea of how this could be really, really useful in specific circumstances. So in our global default environment, we currently have pip and setup tools installed. We're going. Pip is the package, is the Python package manager as such. You use pip to install all your different packages. But what we can do is right click and go to add environment. We can create an environment. We'll just leave it as the default env. Set everything as the same as default, and as soon as it's created, we can show off how it could be useful. Okie doke. So we've now created our Python environment, which is great, and if we look inside it, we can see that it's still got the pip and setup tools packages. But what we can do is we can go to, actually first of all, what I'll say is, or what I'll show, is we'll go to command prompt and type Python, and we'll try to import a package. So we'll import NumPy, not numpty, NumPy. No, yeah. So as you can see, there's no module named NumPy installed. So what we do is we go over to here. Now, bearing in mind we only want NumPy installed on this particular virtual environment, our specific Python virtual environment. So we'll go to manage Python packages, type in NumPy, and as you can see, there's quite a number of different versions of NumPy. There's 1.2, 0.1, 0.2, 1.1, so forth. So you may find certain things inside these different packages that you want that maybe have been deprecated in previous packages. So let's say you've got a package of 0.4 installed in one environment, but you've got version 1 installed in another environment. So what would ordinarily happen is that could possibly conflict, and your program could possibly blow up, or something drastic would happen because it's running different versions, and so it wouldn't know which one to use, and we would get all into a big mess. What we can do is we can say, okay, we're just going to install, we can say run command pip install NumPy, which will install the most recent version. As soon as it does that, we can see down here that it's collecting NumPy, installing. Okay, so this is now installed NumPy locally inside this environment, which means that we can say import NumPy as np, that on the right, press start, and we can see that it compiles, or interprets as such, perfectly okay. We go back to here, we try to import NumPy, and as we can see it doesn't work because it's installed locally and not globally. So now we've installed this particular version of NumPy, it might be that we want to install version 4 on a different project, but what could happen is, if it's installed globally, then it could be that it's just going to get the most recent version, but actually we want a different version, so it's going to mess things up. It's especially bad when we get into big packages like TensorFlow and PyTorch, where a lot changes from version to version. So it's really a good habit to use virtual environments where you can, to keep everything nice and contained and isolated from everywhere, inside your computer as such. So I think that's pretty much it. So what we've done is we've installed Visual Studio, we've set it up for Python development, and we've created our virtual environment where we've installed the NumPy package, and yeah, we're all ready to go. So in the next video, the next few videos are going to be just installers for PyCharm and Visual Studio Code, but the videos after that we're going to get into some proper Python development and hopefully write some applications and start learning the language. So thank you very much.